So, some recent changes to the PTU has prompted me to make a video about it, and I'm pretty excited to see it, just because it's something new to do. Ship projectile velocities and armor penetration updates. With this update to 4.8, ship weapon speeds have been balanced across the board, with speeds raising at the low end and reducing at the high end. This update also brings balancing to heavy fighters' armor penetration, so the fighter class can damage all one another and prevent heavy fighters from not being able to hurt other heavy fighters. Okay, so what does this mean? It means that they changed the weapon speeds, right? So what the weapon speed is how fast your projectile goes. That's not the same as rate of fire. So, and we'll get into that. So basically, with the changes they've done to these weapons, we'll start at the size 4 tree, because that's where most people are going to be building from, unless you're a light fighter, which we were going to start with, but we're going to start with size 4s and why you're going to build around these weapons, right? And this is how I put together my loadouts and my thought process and how I approach these things, right? Other people have different takes and different outlooks on how they play the game, but I'm going to sit here and give y'all my ultimate outlook, and I'll let y'all know now this is going to be a TED Talk, so it's going to be a long one, so grab some coffee or something. So, with these changes, the first notable thing is that they've made attritions fire just as fast as rhinos or any other repeater, right? So that puts the tuning fork back on the menu, and the reason why is because of the alpha damage it does. So when you're building a loadout, the first thing you're going to want to ask yourself is, what am I going to shoot at with this said loadout, right? If you're going to be shooting at, something medium size or above the majority of the time, then you're going to want to sit, and you can do repeaters if you really want, but you're going to want to sit in this weapon speed range, which is around 1,200 meters to 1,000 meters a second. And the reason why is because of the alpha damage, which is the second main thing that you want to build around, right? So when it comes to alpha damage, there's a threshold when it comes to the armor, and I don't know exactly what those new thresholds are. I'm just exploring the changes on the weapons today. So if you want to stay in the higher range rate of fire, you're going to want to take the 84Bs, which are chain guns, and they have 84 alpha. So that's above the threshold, to my knowledge, to applying damage on something big when it doesn't have any shields. Now, if you're a better shot, then you're going to want something that hits a little harder, right? And the two best weapons to build around are going to be the Deadbolt and the M6A. Not the Omni this go around. The Omni is only half as good as the M6A and the Deadbolt, and that is because of its rate of fire. And the thing is that the rate of fire on the Light Strike is the fastest in this bracket of projectile speed. It doesn't do enough alpha damage, unlike the Omni, in order to make up for that. So the Light Strike isn't really in a good spot. It has decent alpha, but it's not as good as an M6A or a Deadbolt. So there's really no reason to use it, is what I'm saying, because as long as there is a higher alpha value associated with an energy weapon, right? The rate of fire, again, is 600. The rate of fire on an M6A is 100, right? And its alpha is 615. The rate of fire on a Light Strike is 250 and its alpha is 166. It needs to be a little bit higher, in my opinion. Or the rate of fire needs to come up and leave it sit where it's at. That's my thoughts on where the light strike is, because it's just, there's no other reason to use it. And that brings me to this part, which is we're going to talk about size 3 weapons and the changes they've made to it, and why I choose to build around some of these particular weapons, right? So for anti-fighter, I've decided to go with, the tuning forks and the shredders. And the shredders have the same speed as the repeaters. So that means they have pip convergence, and the shredders are fire fast enough to keep applying that pressure, while the tuning forks, aka the Ardor size 3 salvaged or attrition size 3s, start taking down the shields. And then of course, because of them having an outrageously high alpha for a repeater, they'll be able to melt the target faster. So basically, you're taking the same principle you would use for a Panther, and you're instead relying on your ballistics instead. That's my thought process. And I have some ships already selected to show y'all what I'm talking about, okay? So this is what it looks like with the normal shredder slash tuning fork loadout, right? This is the alpha in the DPS. As you can see, it's a lot higher than it was last patch. But because they've changed the weapon speeds, the FL33 now fires at almost 1200. So that takes it out of the repeater bracket and puts it down here in the medium bracket, if you will, right? Weapons that are designed to deal more with medium fighters, and then you have weapons that are designed to deal more with heavy fighters, and then you have weapons designed to deal more with lighter fighters. This is one of those lighter target builds based on the weapon speed. Now you could change it up and do deadbolts if you really wanted to. Like if you want to do like the high alpha build, if you will, right? This is going to be your best bet. As you can see, this, and the reason why I'm showing all this is because this brings it on par with the blade, right? Whereas in the last patch, or the last couple of patches, the Gladius was at a complete disadvantage when it comes to the offensive capabilities of the blade, right? And the only like saving grace for most of the fighters in the last patch was the fact that the blade had a pip disparity between its weapons. But now it does not have a pip disparity between its weapons, because they have adjusted the speed of the Warlord, and they have adjusted the speed of the whip, I believe, to be near each other. So as you can see, 1196 for the Wasp, sorry, and then you have 1125 for the Warlord. So that puts the glaive, the blade. It also applies to the glaive as well, which I'll go over in a second, since we're already talking about the blade. But the blade now has pip convergence, is basically what I'm trying to get at, right? So that's why I'm showing y'all what a blade can do right now, and this is what the Gladius. Oh, the loadout reset. That's nice. So just go back real quick. So as you can see, that this puts it more on par with the blade. Now, the difference here is that the Gladius doesn't need to have any upgrades done to it in order to achieve this, right? So you already have the power you need. You don't have to turn it. You don't have to fidget with anything. You can just get in the ship and go, out of the box, good to go, right? But when it comes to the blade, unfortunately, you have to upgrade your power plant with crafting, right? And they have added this blueprint to the PTU, right? So when you acquire it, right, you're only going to need, well, maybe you're going to need more. Let's see. Maybe you do have to max it out. We'll just max quality. Yeah. See, you're gonna have to have max quality on your military power plant in order to have full power, even with life support off, full power with the blade, and with the Gladius, you just have your power is good to go, right? And they're both using competition radars, right? Gladius has the capability of picking and choosing what radar it wants. I mean, if you really want to, you could go with the military, right? Take a power out of life support, and now you have just a little bit more range with it. You see, you can't turn off a cooler anymore, which is a good thing. I like to see it. In order to do this, right? So you'd have to run out of, one out of your shield block to get that maximum range if you really wanted it. But this is probably going to be your most optimal setup. And like I said, if you don't like this, right? If you don't want the alpha, which I mean you really do, right? And this is so for those of you wondering why, it's like, well, why would you take such slow? They're not slow. That's the whole thing I'm trying to like get through to people, is that this is not slow anymore. What's slow is the rate of fire, right? And it's because it has high alpha. I just think that when it comes to the light strike, it's skewed, right? But we'll look at this real quick. So we just gotta find it. Yes, here it is. So the size 1 Vandal cannon now has a speed of 1200, and the war. Yeah, that is a size 5 cannon, just to make sure I'm looking at this right. No, it's a Wraith, sorry. Is at 1,000. So it's only 1,056. So it's only like, what is that? 144, yeah, 144 meter spread. So the glaive spread has been reduced significantly back to the way it was in yesteryear, and the blade has also have its pips brought closer together, right? So you're gonna want that alpha when it comes to this, right? It's the same story with the arrow here, right? You don't have to craft anything, or it's good out of the box with stock, or base level. I don't say stock, but base level components that you can find. And again, you're gonna want that alpha damage, and the buzzsaws make up for the rate of fire on the Ardors. Buccaneer, same story, right? This is what you get for just the normal fastest, loadout you can have. That makes sense, right? But let's say you don't want to do that, right? Let's say you actually want to try something else, right? So first thing you want to do is you're going to want to put this on there, and you're going to put deadbolt ones, and then you're going to want to put in DBs. As you can see, it does a little bit more damage, right? So this is in the middle bracket, if you will, when it comes to weapon speed. So this is ideal for doing against medium fighters or medium-sized ships, right? You can use it to kill light fighters, right? But again, it's when it comes to dealing with a lighter target, you're going to want the faster speed weapons, right? But I just wanted to show y'all the difference on paper, what it looks like between this, because you do have a little bit more flexibility and options now when it comes to the Buccaneers loadout. So I thought that was interesting. And then of course there's the blade, right? So now that we're done with light fighters. All right. If y'all just want to run all Panthers and call it a day, I mean whatever, but I just think that the alpha damage is more important right now than rate of fire. Let's see. I guess we'll start with the Ghost, and then we will move into the F7A Mark II. It didn't save. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We'll just do a Ghost here, and then we're going to do a Saber. Okay, so y'all about to see me do some weird shit, but when have y'all never seen me do weird shit, right? Okay, so now we want to come over here. I'm going to put deadbolts. What did I have I set for last time? Yeah, that's it. Okay. Right. Alright, so turn off that. So yeah, you can't get away with that no more. So you might as well just keep it in there. Alright, so that's that one. So y'all are gonna see why I have it set up this goofy here in a few seconds, right? So the first thing we're gonna talk about is the Ghost and how it's been fucking just neutered into the ground. The loadout doesn't really matter. I'll always run deadbolts, right? And I always run whatever I can fire alongside said deadbolts. And right now I'm liking the M5A deadbolt combo. It does high alpha and high DPS. It's so depressing. By the way, what they did to the Ghost. It's like they took it out back and just beat it up. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and get straight to the stealth configuration. So that stealth oh sorry, I gotta turn that off. So this is the stealth configuration, and obviously you can see it goes down to 950 meters, which is nice and all that stuff, right? So we'll slowly turn it on, right? We'll bring that down, right? So as you can see, now we have 2.5 kilometer detection range, shields off 2.1 kilometers, right? So now we're going to switch over to the Mirage. So just to show y'all, there's really not that much difference when it comes to turning your shields on and off, okay? Literally a 100 meter difference. Stealth shields ain't worth. So they obviously have taken away the ability to put the nose turret back on, which I don't understand why. That's really dumb. Like, this ship has been, you know, neutered enough as it is in the last couple of patches, and now you can't put that on there, right? So I don't know. I just think that's really shitty. As you can see, you're down a power, so you can't even go full power. So again, they just keep dick punching it, right? Oh well, if you turn the other power plant back on, I guess you can, right? But they just keep dick punching this fucking ship, dude. Like, I don't know what their problem is, but here's the funny thing, right? So you see the DPS on it now, right? So this is why I wanted to show y'all this. So, and mind you, it has a debuff on stealth, right? And you can like I just I have no words. I have no words, right? Like, now that you've taken away the Mark II Ghost Nose Turret, right? You've made it completely outdated to a Mark I ship, which is what I'm fixing to show you right now. So now we're going to get to the Saber, right? And of course, I'm going to go ahead and slap my preferred anti-fighter loadout with based on the numbers I'm seeing right now, right? And then we will hit some slipstreams on there. Again, there's nothing stealthy about your quantum drive or your shields. So now that you see on paper what this does, right? Now we're going to show you the numbers for this. Obviously that looks a lot better, doesn't it? Right? But it's going to be harder to hit lighter targets. Can't stress that enough, and I won't stop ever saying that enough, right? So as you can see, with both power plants on and the life support off, one power into this, right? You got all of that, right? So now let's put it in stealth configuration. I always forget to do that every time. So as you can see, it gets even more stealth, right? You turn it all back on, even in with just one power plant on, you're down one power, and you can run one cooler. So when you look at the Ghost, right, it only does just a little bit more. It does just a little bit more damage than a Saber. But why the fuck would you want to take that, right? So here's the next part, right? So here's the rotation values. So as you can see, the rotation values on the pitch, the yaw on the roll, 51, 42, 147. Unboosted, it's 61, 50, and 176, right? When you look at the Saber, right, it's 62, 48, and 160, okay? So basically, you have a Mark II ship that has to constantly be in boost to keep up with a ship that doesn't have to boost. All right, and then when it does decide to try to match the Saber in rotation, the Saber will just boost out of it, right? And the Ghost will never be able to overpower a Mark II, mind you. Will never be able to overpower this. So I just want to stress that Continued nerfing of the Ghost is unnecessary at this point. Like, for the love of God, please stop nerfing the Ghost. Please? So not only is it now inferior to a fucking saber, right? It doesn't even have the firepower to justify using it even as a stealth ship, right? Compared to this. We're talking 500-meter difference here, right? And then, of course, like I said, when you turn everything on within that magical range, right? The only difference here is that because you don't turn a power plant off, right? In order for you to, before you power on, right? You have to manually turn your cooler on and off. But that doesn't matter because you can do things, right? So now here's where it gets interesting, right? So you can just put this at 600, right? It doesn't even have to be maximum best quality in the world, right? It doesn't have to be the hero component. I forget what it was. It wasn't high as fuck, no. Maybe it was 750 is what I was thinking. Yeah. So that's the threshold, and when you hit that threshold, right? Now you're in a situation where you just turn off your life support and put one into the radar, right? If you really wanted to, because you'll have extra power when you come out of, air quote stealth mode here. Right? It's just a little bit more it's more complex, right? But it's totally worth just reaching over to turn on your sorry. It is totally worth just reaching over to turn off a cooler, right? In order to just, have just as good. It's not better, but it's close enough. It's close enough to the stealth of a ghost to not justify taking this ship, right? Like, why would you fly a ghost, right? It's like it doesn't even have like the better. It has only on just by one or even two numerical values does the Ghost have, air quote, better rotation than an F7A. That is just a technicality, and it's kind of silly. It's silly to sit here and watch a Mark 1 be better at literally everything that a Mark II is supposed to be, right? And then, of course, the F7A being almost better at the job than what the Ghost is designed to do. So I really hope that this whole turret lock thing is either temporary or a bug, because, like I said, this thing has been gimped hard enough that I just feel that it's no longer viable as even a stealth vessel now, and that really sucks. And then another thing is that when you actually come over here, like, where's the stealth cap? Like, does the stealth cap even work, right? And if the stealth cap is supposed to work, then I could. That's another reason. Like, you know, how are you supposed to have a like how like you? It doesn't make sense. I just think it doesn't make sense, right? That, you know, the ghost cap isn't working, right? And the nose turret got locked. If the ghost cap was functional, right, then there would be a reason for people to use it, right? Like, you know, I don't think there's much punishment for me taking out or putting in that, right? No, there's literally no fucking difference. See, there's no fucking difference at all taking the ball turret out, right? When it comes to power and stuff, right? Same thing with the guns too. So, again, like, the ghost cap needs to matter, and the nose turret needs to come back, and just make it like, you know, if people want to run the ball turret, for example, right? Then I don't know, make it to where it has to actually have to have full power to the weapons or something, or whatever. But anyway, I think I've gone on long enough. I think y'all get it, right? It's fucking, it's insane that that the F-7A does the job better than, or can do the job better than, a ship that was designed to do a certain role. So, that's just me, though, being me. So the last two we'll talk about in this video, we did the lights, we did some mediums. I guess it would be Asperia ships, wouldn't it? Stinger. Did it save over? No, it did not. Typical. I think it's because I have the tabs open for the weapons, is why. Okay, so the Stinger and the Lightning. Okay, so this we'll do this. I guess we'll do the Stinger the Lightning first, right? So again, I'll just get right to the point with this one, right? You have two different loadouts you can use for the ship for viability. This is gonna be your first loadout, okay? So, as you can see, it does really decent damage, right? But this is if, again, you're shooting at something medium or above. Now, let's say you're not shooting at something medium or above, right? So you're gonna want something like that. If you're dealing with lighter targets, you're gonna want something like this. And if, like I said, if you don't want to use tuning forks and you want to have something that fires faster, right? Let's see. I mean, like, pick your poison. Like, you could take this off, right? And you could put the Badgers on here. But you see for yourself the DPS drop. You're losing almost 90 alpha and almost 300 DPS. So let's go over to the size 2s and type in Badgers. It's the same thing, right? No, you're losing even more doing that. See? Like, I just don't see a reason to use these fucking things, right? Just use shredders. because like I said, like if the Panthers were doing more, like, because see, the thing is that the way I see it is that these Panthers and the Badgers and the Bulldogs, I'm not bad mouthing the weapon or the people that use said weapon. What I don't like about it is that it's a weapon designed just to deal with shields, right? It's no longer a weapon that's supposed to kill a fighter's hull or the actual fighter itself quickly. It's a weapon that's supposed to take shields down quickly. That's what that does, in my opinion, in my outlook, right? So you're gonna, like I said, if the alpha didn't matter as much as when it comes to dealing with anything, it doesn't matter if it's a lighter or heavy or above, right? If the alpha didn't matter as much, if fighter weapons, were just as effective as the bigger weapons are against, basically, like I wouldn't. Let me say that back. Like, if the TTK on weapons like repeaters wasn't high like it is now, then there would be no reason to use the other weapons in the game. If that makes any sense? Like, let me have to go back and like kind of think that for a second, right? Because like, you don't want a one weapon wins all situation, right? But because we have just only 2 layers, right, which is shields and armor, right, and the hull as well, right? Because of that, there's only 2 effective ways of applying damage, right, or splitting that damage, and by doing so, you make it to where a repeater isn't effective against armor, and you make it to where a cannon or an energy cannon, for example, takes a little bit longer because of how many shots you have to apply on target to bring down the shields. If that also makes any sense. Because these weapons are not designed to shoot at a target that's sitting still, right? And when you're shooting at a target sitting still, it's not showcasing the properties of the weapon as effectively as some people think it does. So, but the only thing the reason why I sit here and make this video is because I know how all these weapons behave already, right? The only thing that's changed is the projectile speed in which these weapons fire now. Not the rate of fire, nothing else. Some will fire faster, some will fire slower. Everything objectively fires slower. And then there are some things that fire faster, right? Deadbolts being the main thing that fires faster in this patch. They're not too much faster, right? But they're about 280 or so average faster than they were the last patch. Deadbolt 3's last patch, for example, were 900 meters a second projectile speed. Now they're almost 1200. So that's a noticeable increase, but that doesn't change the fact of its fire rate. Some weapons, I think, again, need to be relooked at. Like the Light Strike, I've been over, but the Wraith Cannon definitely needs its rate of fire increased. I know its alpha is stupid fucking high, but that fire rate is just too goddamn slow, man. It really is. It needs to be either just a little bit higher. Now, when I'm saying a little bit higher, I mean just a little bit higher. But right now, that fire rate is so abysmal. the time to kill, even with the alpha damage as high as it is it takes incredibly too long. You know, you compare a glaive to a I guess we could do that too. That's the last thing we can look at together is the glaive. I know it's everyone's favorite topic is the glaive, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is show you the way that you need to set it up if you're going to fly it out of the box, and then I'll show you the way you need to fly it if you're going to go the path of the Sweat Lord or the path of the, whatever. So I'll use that. Actually, no. Not right now, we won't. I'll use this for the moment. So, again, as with it stock like this, right? You can get this much out of it, right? So if you're comfortable with running 2 power blocks down on your shields, then you can do that. So if you want to go that route, you can. I was just showing you the more easy route, the kind of the I only have to click 2 buttons ever kind of route. Okay. So now, if you want to go the path of the Sweat Lord, right, then you'd want to increase this to the maximum you can get it, right? And you'd also want to do the same thing to all of your components. Now, the first thing we'll show you the difference here. Obviously, the power generation went up significantly here, right? But now you have the radar, right? It's at 1169 now. Max quality is 1400, right? And 2 power blocks over. This is not a stealth ship. You never want to fly it as a stealth ship, so you might as well just go ahead and have it set up properly, okay? Now, quantum drive, 266 meters a second. Max quality, 300,019, 200 meters a second. So that's, again, pretty damn fast, right? Shields. Shield bubble. Some of you may have already seen or noticed this, but the shield bubble with 2FR66 is 7,920. And then you max that out. That's almost 2,000 extra hit points. Almost 10,000 shields, right? There are some things that are going to be mandatory when it comes to chaining the higher end, if you will, right? And being able to fully utilize something, right? And right now, we're getting step by step, ever so slowly, we're getting to that point. We're getting to where, you can start to see it's something coming together here. Ugh, what the fuck is this? That's better. It's the same thing with everything that I'm fixing to show you in the heavy fighters, right? So, crafting is going to be a thing, whether people like it or not. And I wanted to wait till this last part of the video to do the stinger, and of course, talk about my thoughts on the new claim system and the notion of loss and all this stuff in the game, right? So here's my thought process on that, all right? as you can see, everything here is at 500 quality, right? Everything that you can loot in game, obviously, is 500 quality, and by that logic, um, I think anything that that isn't bound to your account can be looted off of you, right? And for for stuff or just everything, your components can be looted. Your Let me start over again. Like, let me phrase this properly. Anything you own, you can claim and get back through the reclaim system or whatever they're going to do for armor in the future, right? But if a player kills you and loots you, right, or salvages your ship, they should be able to take everything from you. They should be able to pick up your chest piece, your undersuit, your guns, all of it. They should take. It's a full loot game after all. But if it's an item that you own and is bound to your account, it's going to be bricked to them. They loot it bricked, right? But they can take all the items that are in it, like in the pockets and on the chest and stuff like that. They can loot all of that too, right? And with the bricked components, they should be able to salvage those for parts and for materials needed to make other things, right? But that player that got killed and looted didn't lose anything because it's bound to their account, right? And I think the same should apply to ship components as well. And what I'm trying to get at here is that when it comes to the new claim system and when it comes to crafting, okay, I don't think that a crafted component should be able to have insurance on it, and I don't think you should be able to get it back through the claim system, right? I also think that anything that you do craft, right, anything that, like, any piece of armor, any ship component, any ship gun, right, any FPS weapon, right, anything that you craft in game should be a completely 100% lootable item. All right, if you die and you're wearing a crafted piece of gear, and it's even if it's mixed in with stuff you own, right, that item isn't bricked because it's obviously better than a store-bought item which has a base quality of 500, which is what I'm trying to get at, right? So, by that logic, you can have best of both worlds, right? By that logic, you can have that safety net for people that are guaranteed to have the stuff that they've bought and pledged for on the storefront. Okay, fine. That's cool. I'm all for that, honestly. But again, like I said, your body, you should be able to loot everything off of it, regardless if it's bricked or not. And if it's a bricked item, regardless if it's a ship component, regardless if it's an FPS gun, armor, whatever, bricked items should be able to be salvaged. Now, and used for materials, just like was originally pitched by Tyler Witkin in the past and concerning this topic, right? And as far as values and what you get out of it and all this other stuff, I'll leave that to, the big brains, air quote, over at Cloud Imperium Games, okay? I just think that people are not giving the right outlook on a situation, right? They're not, like, thinking about how something could be done, right, in order to get the best of both worlds. In this particular situation, you can get the best of both worlds. You can have your no risk PvE experience by using your pledge items, by using your store-bought stuff, right? And then you can have more of an adverse experience, right? Heavy risk experience by actually having to have the crafted stuff to do content out in, let's say, red space or whatever, right? or Xeon space or whatever space, right? The core systems and the systems that we're currently inhabiting do not require that level of content yet, right? Do not require that. Do not have that level of content, and we don't require that level of um, stuff in order to do the content that they're providing us already. If that makes any sense, they always like to talk about scaling, right, guys? Isn't that what they always do? They always talk about scaling. Well, this, in my opinion, is another way of scaling the game, and also giving more reason for things not just to exist, but purpose for people to play the game, right? I just feel that, like, I mean, looted components and all that stuff that you find on the ground, right? Um, I don't know, right? I feel that for the moment you should be able to claim those, right? I do, but in the future, right, which is what we're getting to right now, because we're getting to a point to where you can craft all this stuff, right? And based on the availability of the materials to craft this stuff, right, is going to determine, whether there's a working economy, right? There's incentive for people to help their friends out or whatever, right? But without a player market, right, without an auction house, without Stormwind, I think it should be Area 18, but whatever. Without a place for players to actually list their stuff in game, instead of this goddamn UEX fucking website, with anything that has to, like, this third party stuff needs to kind of stop. We need an in-game system where players can buy and trade from each other, right? I mean, player shops are one thing that's cool and all, but we also need Stormwind. We also need an auction house, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. We need a main place to go in order to do this, so that players are incentivized, outside of just helping their friends out or whatever, right, to create their own gameplay loops by having these in-game things that, again, do not need to be third party and out of game, in order to incentivize the player base to not just participate in it, but to incentivize their orgs to get more people to play the game, right? To give some other reason than going out here and dick waving and killing each other in the persistent universe over points of interest, right? Heavily trafficked points of interest, right? Because that's essentially all this has been and devolved into for the last, solid 6 to 8 months, if not longer, if you want to get, like, really technical with it. But there needs to be, something like that to incentivize the industry. Like, industry really needs to take off, and we need to get people interested in that, right? And I'm not talking about making cargo commercials or salvage commercials or any of that stuff. No, I'm talking about, like, appealing to an audience of people that are into things like Factorio, for example, or fucking any type of game like that, where you build something, right? Where you can actually have, like, your hangar needs to be expanded upon, right? We need a place to actually, do things and stuff in the hangar. We need a place to park ships in the hangar so we can put them on our goddamn Idrises, right? There's so many vehicles as well, like, the garages and shit, right? And then, maybe, just maybe, we get rid of the habs and we have a bedroom inside of the hangar, right? Why the fuck, are we not doing this? I don't know, right? But in my mind, it's stuff that all of us need in one way or another, right? It doesn't matter if you're a bigger backer or a smaller backer, right? Just having the ability to spawn and play with all of your stuff inside of your hangar, on top of being able to craft and do all that other stuff, research in the future, right, and science stuff as well. You know, I just feel that we need a system like that. Even if it is just going to devolve into players selling the raw material on the store for players to make their own stuff through blueprints, right, or whatever. But anyway, so we're looking at the Stinger right now, and we're doing an M6A deadbolt loadout because it fits with the Wraith Cannon's fire rate, right? So since we're using size, okay, so yeah, so we're at a 1056 for the Wraith Cannon. And we're at 1152, so just right under a 100-meter spread, right, for both the M6A and the deadbolt between the Wraith Cannon, right? And then of course we also have the deadbolt 2, right, which we'll look at right now. Which has a speed of 1196. So the deadbolt's the fastest firing. Deadbolt 2 is the fastest firing weapon on the ship, with just a little under 200 meters of spread between that and the Wraith, and that's why I choose to use that, right? And then we go here and separate this out, and we look at the size 2 weapons that we can use, right? So if we wanted to, we could use the FL-22s. We could use light strikes if we wanted to. We could use the M4As. In fact, we have a lot of options when it comes to size 2s. We could use great swords if we really wanted to. But why? Because the great sword only has 73 alpha, right? The deadbolt has 303 alpha, and I don't know if the ammo is around here somewhere, but anyway, it's not worth. So you separate, and then of course you separate it out by alpha damage, right? So again, the deadbolt does the best alpha damage in its speed class, followed up by the M4A. Yep. So that's how you would do that, right? And how you would do that. So basically, now that you see what this looks like stock, right? So you can turn a cooler off. You can turn the oh, I forgot to change this. Okay. So as you can see now, we're down 2 power blocks now, right? Again, you don't have to have it maxed, I believe. Didn't take. Okay, cool story. Alright, well maybe you do. Maybe you gotta have it max. And that's all she wrote. And of course you can do the same thing for your snow blinds as well. Again, if you want to go for full turbo autistic mode and make sure you have the best of the best, this is what that is going to look like. So turn off that for max power. And if you do have the ability to max this out, if it's even to be a blueprint to be maxed out, you can get 1,400 meters off of it. And basically they have nerfed everything to where it is today to make it to where you can craft it back to where it was tomorrow. Is basically what they're doing right now. You don't want to do anything else with this Stinger, by the way. Like I said, pip convergence matters. And, you know, you could put, you know, the other weapons on here and theoretically shoot at lighter targets, but let's be real, this thing doesn't turn fast enough at all to dogfight. It's only good for shooting at, you know, only the bobbiest of the bobs, and that's why I call it the Bobslayer 9000. It's only good at killing bobs, and it's only good at killing big ships. And that's pretty much all the Stinger's really good for. So, there you go. I hope y'all sticked around and enjoyed this and learned something from it. Maybe y'all will have a better loadout to play with. That's fine. You know, I'm just throwing out there what I think and what I'm going to be using, just simply based on the numbers I'm looking at right now. And I'm glad to see that attritions are back on the menu for a change. And I'm glad to see that deadbolts were increased in weapon velocity speed. That's nice. But the light strike, I think the light strike needs some work. Honestly, I don't think changing the speed is really going to help much with the performance of the light strike. And the same thing with the Wraith Cannon as well. It's just too slow. Because the DPS of an F7A is a nut, like on paper, like you see, like, yeah, I mean, we can throw that to get back together real quick, just to close the video out. Actually no. Derping here. I'm derping. So as you can see, the rate of fire on this loadout and the damage it does on paper, right? And then of course, you look at the glaive, its rate of fire, right, and the damage it does on paper, right? It doesn't like what it doesn't compete at all, right? I will say that it has the same coolness here, is that it does theoretically out-rotate Hornets, and it out-rotates them well. It has this almost the same rotation and rotation values as a Saber, but that doesn't matter if the guns can't fucking track what they're shooting at, much less, you know, apply damage in a meaningful amount of time compared to something like this. So that's the whole, like, reasoning here as to why, you know, players gravitate toward metas and gravitate toward, you know, certain ways of doing things, because as long as you got this blatant, you know, example here, right, of not just this thing being able to do stealth better than a ghost, in my opinion, right, but it also has the ability to completely dominate and Shrek the glaive regardless of the rotation values, right? It just doesn't have the ability to apply damage fast enough, or even at the same pace or in a trading capacity as this. Which, and by the way, if we're sitting here acknowledging that the glaive is being reworked, right, and it's not a Mark II variant, then there's no reason for this thing not to be tuned and not to be, made to work regardless of its flaws on its Tier 0 blueprint or what the fuck ever, right? The damn thing is a $350 fighter, and it doesn't perform. All right? The blade can actually kill something. Not just because of the rate of fire, but because its cannons are not nerfed into the fucking ground. Unlike this thing. And then that brings me to my final point. If plasma grenades are in the game finally, right? Does that mean that plasma damage can finally be enabled on the Xperia ships? Like, shouldn't plasma be a factor, right? If there's a reason why the rate of fire is slow on this thing, right? The only thing I can think of outside of doing it for marketing reasons to sell other things is plasma damage has been disabled, and it's not doing the damage it's supposed to do because the modifier that it needs to have in order to justify the stats that a size 5 cannon has have been disabled or are not enabled at the moment. So if we have plasma grenades, then plasma cannons should do plasma cannon damage to ships, is what I'm trying to ultimately get at here. And hour long video. I told you I was going to be a TED Talk, and if you stuck around to the end of this video, type in the comments "Glaive Lives Matter," and make sure you like and subscribe if you want to hear more ranting from me, and or looking at how I set my ships up in the game. So I will be back in live, and I will wait for this to go live before I resume testing it. Make sure you have a Class A power plant if you're going to do the trench run. Okay, bye.